Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Bite-Sized Branding live show. This is, I think, the 36th show. You can't stop me and Grant. We just keep going and going and going. We are running a little bit late today, and it's mainly because Grant and I couldn't stop talking about all the logos that we want to be talking about in this segment. So we're going to be talking all about rebrands that happened late 2020 or mid 2020 till now, 2021. It kind of got provoked or prompted by a recent rebrand that is that's kind of surprised me with a piece of a software that we use in our brand. And I thought, you know what, let's just tune in, let's put together a segment. And, you know, Grant and I both love logos, logo type, logo iconography. And we thought, let's just tear apart a bunch of, or unbundle is probably the nicest way of putting it, a bunch of rebrands, some beautiful ones and some ones that left us kind of a little bit puzzled. So we got a bunch to go through. I'm going to kick it to Grant to introduce himself. As always, Grant, thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, everyone. My name is Grant Thom, and in the industry, I'm known as a head fire starter. And today we're going to talk about something that I really love, which is branding, and especially when businesses make the decision to rebrand. And I think that there's a lot that we're going to cover. So welcome, everyone, to Bite-Sized Branding. And please like, share, send questions, and challenge us. Because every day, every week, we are discussing these subjects with the view to bring to the show to make it interesting for you and for us. But more than anything else, it's about Bernard and I bashing heads together, beating the clock, and be able to get out the best content, the best bit of knowledge that we've ever experienced in a short space of time. Yeah,
that's it. And definitely, this is a good one if you are around. Feel free to post your comments up because we're going to be popping up a bunch of pictures. So give us your opinion. What do you think of what's coming up on the screen? So let's get into it. We have cut the clock down to 3 minutes because we've got so many that we want to talk about. We're like, let's just hammer them out and give our opinions straight up on what we think about all these nice new rebrands. Ready to go, Grant?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Awesome. I'm going to pop the first one up on the screen and then I'll hit the timer. So this is the one that just kind of really surprised me and then provoked this whole idea. So let me just share my screen and you're sharing. It's a lot of prompts to share your screen on this app. Yes, I want to share this screen. Of course, this screen. Cool. So this first one here, I'm hitting the clock. So this first one here is Dext. Now, a lot of people may not know the brand Dext, but it was formerly known as Receipt Bank, as it says there on the website. It's an interesting little brand. Let me just zoom in on the logo. I actually think if I press back here, you might be able to see it a lot bigger. I guess what threw me about this is we use Receipt Bank in our business quite often. And all of a sudden, I just start getting these emails, these little email prompts from Dext saying, hey guys, here is your weekly roundup of your receipts by Dext. And I'm like, who is Dext? So I like shoot an email off to my bookkeeper and I'm like, hey mate, who are these guys? And then they come back to me and tell me that Receipt Bank rebranded to Dext. And I'm like, whoa, surprise. When did that happen? And I guess then from that, there's a bit of an interesting sentiment that like personally, we're so synonymous and so comfortable with the Receipt Bank brand, and we've seen it so often. And in the app world, it's a very well-known brand, in particular because Xero tried to purchase them at one point and they turned down Xero, which is like made the whole industry go crazy. And then they suddenly turned to Dext. And for us, we just haven't really connected with the brand. I don't feel like it really says receipts. You know what I mean?
Well, let me come in here. I don't know of this brand at all. But in a space of literally 14 days, I think I've heard this name 20 times.
Wow.
And I think what's important when I look at the site and I look at how they used to look to where they are now, it's all part of that iconic branding of the future in the sense of anything that's 3 letters, 4 letters, 5 letters makes for chunky, makes for bolder, makes for more precise. And therefore, it's going to work digitally. It's going to work more mindful. It's going to be more appearing in more spaces because it's going to be bigger and larger. So it's a bold approach. Be it that it's the right name or the wrong name, I can't tell you any different because I'm not familiar with the brand. But I think that they've done a good thing. And now it's building trust, value, authenticity, and trust is the most important factor. And then, of course, quality and value. So I think they're on a track of growth.
There is a little subtlety in there as well, just before the clock ticks. If everyone noticed how they actually angled the edge of the T off the angle of the X there, so it actually follows through as a little cut through the which is a nice little touch. And I think basically what we were saying is that I think the direction kind of comes from them wanting to step up into a more formal, into a more serious business space, and that's kind of been the push to this more commercial name, I guess. Yeah, so I don't know if I'm in love with it yet, but I'll see if it grows on us.
You know what? I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 in the sense that I think it's going in the right direction. And I think that it has got merits with the view to do something great, better than what it had in the past. So I think that it's got great merits with the view to go forward, and I look forward to following it.
But I think poorly communicated. Even in the
poorly introduced.
Yeah, poorly introduced. Yeah, because even in the emails, they just say Dext, and then it says like formally, no, it doesn't even say formally. It just says by Receipt Bank or something like that. And I'm like, that looks like a spam email to me. It should say like Dext, formally, Receipt Bank, or something like that, or proudly a part of, or, Receipt Bank, proudly a part of Dext, something like that. So then we feel like, oh, wow, welcomed into the brand, rather than it just being like, oh, this is like a little thing that we did.
But there can be many attributes. It could be if there was a timing issue. There could be the fact that there was a logistical issue. There could be a confidence issue. There could be a fact that they felt that they will rather deal with the disruption rather than trying to do with the education. So there's a multitude of things that can go into it. As I said, I'm not familiar with the brand, so I can't really comment. But I think what they've done is definitely a step in the right direction if their intention is to grow and scale.
Yeah, I agree. Cool. Well, let's jump into another brand now. I'm trying to bring up one of the nice ones that you spoke about before. There it is. Yeah, very subtle change. Yeah, we always like the ones that are subtle. Okay, cool. So the next one we're going to talk about, I think we're going to let's start with Intel.
Okay.
It's something I think that people never really expect to happen with a brand that's so synonymous, then decides to make a little adjustment. But I'm going to bring this up on the screen, and I'm going to hit the timer. Boom, bringing it up now.
So let me start this one off. As soon as it's up on the screen. Come.
There it is.
So basically, this is a very good example of what businesses and brands are doing right now, where they are making big changes with a view of very subtle deliveries in the sense of how it was before. They had a big circle, it was registration mark, there was movement. Now it's just good, clean typography, nice and bold, and just a blue little dot to be their point of difference. The brand is well known. The brand is educated as to the value that they bring their customers. Now it's a case of dominating on how many times they can implement this brand. For me, this is a good example of iconography, because at the end of the day, it's about less is more is more, and at the end of the day, they're strong, they're bold, and they are going to make sure that it works in a different space. I think they did a phenomenal job.
Yeah. I would agree. I think that the simplicity is amazing. And as a brander, when I look at it, I think of all the brand applications you can do with just this little square. Like you can picture in an ad, the square will fly in or fly out. You can picture them, putting content in the square and then breaking out of the square. It's very similar actually to what Deloitte did with their rebrand, highlighting the little green dot. And then the green dot became a brand element they could use everywhere. Let's see if I can bring it up quick enough. This is like a race against the clock for my fingers. But Deloitte actually did a very phenomenal rebrand with a similar kind of guise, where they simplified and they just brought out you can actually see it in the top corner there. But they removed a lot of color out of it, because they used to be the blues and everything.
There we go.
And then you see how they blew up the dot. This is just phenomenal. Look, like so simple. The image is a paint tin and it's green, and it's just synonymous with the green dot of Deloitte. They use it within cultures in a little plate. They've got the just the green dot as a splash. this kind of thing, I think Intel could also really liken to and take advantage of. I think it's a really strong brand piece, and it seems so simple. And I think the hardest thing is to teach people that simplicity is okay. Sometimes people feel like they need every little element, the swish, the line, the little icon, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, no. Sometimes just as much thinking goes into the simplicity and what the simplicity could do for a brand.
Look, if you look at the old logo, for example, it was done in the late 80s, early 90s. You can see that was very much the trend back then.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. It's now, we're in the 20s of the new decade. So basically, I just think that less is more, bold is bold. And I think that they can really just be iconic and dominate. And I think that's what branding is all about. What can I say? What can I say?
Mate, perfectly wrapped up. That little ringer didn't want to stop. Perfectly wrapped up. And yes, I agree completely. I think the issue is, well, not the issue. You could see it's been come through a little bit of a journey as well. It used to have gradients and all that kind of stuff and be three-dimensional, and then it's simplified and flattened, and now it's just become really simplistic. It's an interesting trend. And I think the thing that becomes complex in this trend is registering or trademarking, because the font is so simple. What are the elements that actually make it unique enough for it to be stamped as a trademark or a registered trademark?
Yeah,
that's where I think the play becomes a little bit interesting, because if you look at it, there isn't any element out of that I couldn't recreate in half an hour in any software. So that's very, it's a very interesting little question.
That's it.
And we'll see how it plays out. I think the next time we'll kick to is let's just have it here. Let's kick to GoDaddy. Let me switch this guy on. Let's start that share screen. And here he is. It always asks me to share the screen when I'm only sharing one screen. There he is, the Godaddy Rebrand. I think I could bring that up a little bigger even. Nope. Oh yeah, there we go.
So let me start this one.
Yeah.
So those who don't know what GoDaddy does, basically GoDaddy is where you can buy your domains, you can host your website, you can even build website. They offer a wide range of services around the world. And I didn't mind the brand previously. I thought it was quite funky, it was quite cute, it was quite playful. But I think what they've done now is they've definitely stepped it up in the sense that they've become more professional. They want to be considered. They want to be referred to. They want to be a player within this domain space. And I think once again, what they did was they went and they moved into a stronger type font. They moved into the heart to show love. And like you see there on those examples, they've taken a brand and they've made it playful in order to make sure that you can't ever run out of things in social media with the view to be associated to target audiences, to be associated to consumer, to be associated to a brand that creates memorability, with the view that you can never get boring, because your subtlety of your brand is always going to be adapted to the market, because you're offering such a wide and diverse services to the business and social media organizations. So basically, I think they did a bold step here, but I definitely gone in the right direction. And now they look serious. And once again, less is more, as you can see. And I think that this is the trend and the style of where digital is transforming and conforming and demanding in order to be effective. And I think they did a great job.
Yeah, nice. Look, personally, I don't love it. I see the elements all at play there. I do love the application, and actually this sells it for me more so than how they've even used it on the website. When I first saw it come in, I actually feel like, I don't know if it's the line weight might be too thin here in comparison to the weight of the logo or something, but something feels disjointed. They don't feel connected. They don't feel like one element. Maybe it's the fact that the way they've used the typography in the symbol itself is quite playful, and then the font is quite stagnant. It's flat, I, same as you, really liked the original GoDaddy brand because it was so bold and so out there, and you'd never seen anything like it. And the way they advertise it, there's actually a picture up here if you really want to, remember back in the
That's
day.
how they launched it.
Yeah. So
it was a Super Bowl ad.
Yeah. So what they do is really bold and out there, and I don't know if they capture that same kind of almost risque angle to the brand, which I think set them apart from everyone else. So we'll see. Whoops. Obviously, they're not gonna go back anytime soon to what they had, but I I don't know. I'm a bit torn with this one, whether or not I'm as in love with it. But I do like what they've done with it so far, the symbolism and playing with the symbolism, much like, you know, like we just showed with Deloitte, and, you know, hopefully what Intel does with their symbol as well. But I just liked how outside of the box GoDaddy used to be, and I feel like this is more.
It's conforming.
Yeah, more conformed. Yeah, exactly. And I don't think we have enough brands just like kicking ass and pushing boundaries.
Absolutely. I get the feeling that I think when businesses looked at them, they felt they were a bit kiddie and therefore didn't take them serious and went to the competitor. And I think that was the reason why they felt to conform. But I'm going to just drop a little bit of a bombshell, because I'm a little bit biased, because my name starts with a G, so therefore I've got a favoritism towards the G, and the G in the heart is exactly what I'm about. So I'm just going to give it a bit of love and say it was a great effort.
It is a brilliant way of how they've integrated that G and the O together and created the heart symbol. Like, you know, that would have taken a lot of thought and a lot of iteration to get there. It's not something you just go, oh, you know what's genius? You can make a heart out of a G and an O. Who would have ever thought that, you know? So I do think it's a brilliant little play that they've gone with there. Let's pull up actually one that we both kind of went, wow, this is brilliant. I think you know which one I'm gonna bring up. Should I even say the name? Oh really? Okay, I'm gonna start the share.
Drum roll.
So the first thing I'm gonna show is the original logo, and then I'll pull up the new one. So let's share that screen again. Oh, I've got to start that timer too. Don't you love just seeing us on the screen before I switch over? Oh, I went to the wrong one.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So Grant was putting out a lot of love for this rebrand. This is the original brand here. So if you're falling in love with it already, just wait and see what's about to
basically, for those who don't know, it's a Chinese brand, a luxury coffee brand, very well known in China. And I just think that's what they used to look like.
Ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's see if we can get this zoomed in here.
So once again, the subtlety, that's where they're starting to play, bringing O to be synonymous. They start with an O, they end with an O, their logo is an O. And once again, just that subtlety,
love this application.
The arrangement into the O and playing the change of color, dramatic color change, the enhancement, the little graphic elements that just form a subtle O, and how they brand on their cups now.
This is stunning, absolutely stunning.
I think that they've gone from a 2 out of 10 to definitely a 7.5 out of 10. I think that they've really just gone in the right direction. I think that it would be well recognized in a very short space of time.
And, you know, like much like the other brands that we've talked about, taking a shape and then turning that shape into an interactive part of the brand is phenomenal. Like, I love that this circular, you know, between the Move by Coffee here, because straight away you get that feeling like when you put the coffee cup on the table and it leaves a little coffee ring. That's what hits me straight away. And then they reinforced it by doing the circle version of the logo, which I love, the little seal there. And I think not enough people play around with variations of the logo that reinforce the brand. But we've done seals on a couple of brands that we've designed, and it's always phenomenal. To a point, like King's Cross Distillery, one of the people we work with, you'll see the seal more often through the brand than you do the actual official branding. And then again, using the logo and extending it into shapes and form, just this bird and the leaves, it's phenomenal. I love this branding. I love it. And I'm happy that you brought it to my attention. Yeah. That's definitely a favorite of mine.
The last 24 seconds about that particular brand. So I think they were well established, they were well recognized, they knew for their luxury, but they had to now take it to the next step. And I think that they definitely did. It was color choice, it was typography, it was positioning, it was playful. And once again, I just love the colors that they walk away with at the end of the day. So I think that they were very alternative in the market space that they were. And I think that they raised their game, which I think is what the whole purpose of rebranding is all about.
Yeah, I think they really stepped it up. Like sometimes you see a rebrand and you kind of go, oh, did they kind of, is this a step back? And actually, there was one rebrand that got criticized quite a bit, which was the Jcpenney rebrand a couple of years back, the JCP one, where they removed the full name and then they made it a giant red box with a blue box in the corner, very Americana, and then wrote JCP in the blue box. And it copped a lot of flack, but I think people didn't really realize how full the thought process was behind this branding. It became this like framing that they did within their front store displays. So you'd see this red frame just appear everywhere through the brand. And it's actually kind of the start of this kind of branding where they take a shape or a form and they turn it into an extension of the brand. And I actually thought that JCP rebrand was fantastic. I loved it. I was like, I can see the vision here. I can see the application. And it's like a lot of retail branding never considers its application in the store. They just stick it on the front door and you walk through and that's it. You just walk into the store. They actually thought about, okay, it's on the front door, but how do we put it into our displays? How do we put it into our marketing? How do we put it into and I was like, that is a great extension of a brand. Good use of brand application.
Absolutely. Very much so.
Yeah. Where do we want to go next? Let's have a look here. So many brands to look at, so little time. Let's jump over here. Let's do another one of Grant's faves. Another, actually, I won't even explain it. Let's just share that screen. Sharing. Share. And we're going to go over here. We'll start that timer.
There we go.
Don't even have to explain anything. That's why I didn't want to say anything. I'm like, there's not much to say here. Yeah, look, I'll jump in straight away. I think this rebrand is fantastic. It's so simple, so subtle and clean, but it just steps it up to a whole nother level. And it's funny because the real key thing that you'll pull out of this is the fact that they went all caps and that they changed the letter spacing. And it seems really subtle. It doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But when you look at the two of them side by side, the one on the right is so much more striking and feels so much more elegant in its application. They also made all the lines a lot lighter. And then we'll just scroll up here and I'll show you a little bit more of what they've done with the Rolls-Royce brand. But you'll also see they've just cleaned and simplified the illustrative version of the Rolls-Royce symbol off the front of the car there. I think it's phenomenal. It's very elegant, very sophisticated, modern, and somewhat timeless. I think they won't have to do this for quite a bit of time. They won't have to do it again, for quite a bit of time. What do you think, Grant?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind when you say the word Rolls-Royce is that you think that they've reached the pinnacle, of their industry. And just when you refer to Rolls-Royce, you think, that's it. There's nothing more that you could possibly do with this brand. And this is a very, very good example about not rejigging or rechanging or reinventing. It's about tweaking. And all that they did was they tweaked. And what they did was they took something that was impossible, which because mentally we thought there's no ways you could do it any better because it's so well known. And they did take it a couple of steps forward into a new age. And quite right. All uppercase, just different spacing. Once again, very digital play, good use of color. And once again, if you look at the icon, they now bringing that whole thing of iconography to the front.
Yeah, and
bold, simple, clean. It's not about fine little lines anymore and little hashtags and renderings. It's about bold, clean spaces because digital only can work in bold spaces. It doesn't like little lines and stuff. It breaks, it defrags, it looks different on different screens. So therefore, less is more, bigger than what you really are in smaller spaces is very much what iconography is all about. And that's where tablets, smartphones are pushing. That brands need to start playing in their space if you want to be relevant. And I think Rolls-Royce have gone to the nth degree and they have delivered. And I think they did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, I don't know if you're seeing this as well, but you see how they've taken the brand mark again and extended it into the branding of the of the actual application here. This is phenomenal as well. I'm going to stop this guy. Shh, be quiet. this is, again, another great extension of that brand iconography, like we've talked about with the other previous brands. And I think what they've done phenomenally is it's almost like digitizing the brand, like bringing it into the 20th century. And I think like you look at the application on the bag here, and what they've been doing so well with Rolls-Royce is really modernizing the brand. Their new designs of their vehicles and everything is really like a step above what you're seeing across other brand makers. So they're definitely always pushing the boundaries, always staying on the front foot. It's a phenomenal rebrand. And I love how they've digitized it. That line work is fantastic. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. Just a point I want to add here where it's not easy for a big brand to make a change. They do lots of audits and research as to the value of what a brand is to a company like Rolls-Royce. And then when it comes to the investment to make a change, there is a lot to consider. Something like about 300 topics that have to be researched in the sense of emotion, psychological, confidence. All those subjects get discussed with the view to work out where is this now being positioned. They go and they put people in a room and they show the brand and they wait for commentary and response before they go out. So they've invested a lot here. But the thing that they will do next is they will audit this brand as to, did it maintain? Did it grow? And if it grew, then that was the object of the exercise, that they have transformed into a change in terrain. You must realize that Tesla is mixing it up in the car industry in a big time. And therefore, all brands are having to revisit the space with the view to understand how they're going to remain relevant in a very fast and changing market. And I think Rolls-Royce got 10 out of 10 on this one.
Yeah, I love that. I love their rebrand. Like simple, smart, sophisticated. It's and they looked at the full application end to end. And look, this is a conversation that we struggle to have with clients, is to bring them along with the full vision. And you know, if you're listening now and you're going through the process or considering going through the process, really sit with your agency and talk about what is the end-to-end thought or the driver behind this. It's not just a beautiful mark and a beautiful font. It's how does that apply, and where's the vision for how it applies across all the collateral. There's a lot of value in looking at that, because sometimes you see a logo and it doesn't really resonate with you, and then you hear or you see the application, you go, wow, that's above and beyond. You know, that's the next level. So definitely have those conversations with your agency. There's another couple. I think we'll throw in one or two more.
While you're putting the next one up, let me just say that this is the start or part of a brand story, because this is where we take people on a journey. I heard a phenomenal thing with Lego, where they did something in the social media space, and they said, okay, we started a story, you tell us how it ends. And of course, you now give your version of how the story ends. And I'm thinking, what a great way to be brand storytelling, engagement. And that's ultimately what you really want to do, is get to that level of confidence.
I'm going to show 2 or 3 more. I know there's one that you want to talk about because it was a real, like, whoa, didn't expect to see that kind of moment. I
know which one you're referring to.
I didn't even say anything yet, mate. And then I saw a great animation for another one, so I'll show that, and then we'll finish off with. I think we'll finish off with probably the magazine. Okay. So let's get these ones cracking. I'm going to share my screen again. Who's messaging me? And I'll hit the clock. Boom. Where are we going today? I think it's not that one there. We've seen that guy. Oh, it's this one. Oh, I put this one up too early. This is not the one we're talking about. This is the one we're talking about.
Oh, man.
So this was a temporary rebrand just for the fall release of Winter 2020. Interesting. Very interesting little approach here. What are your thoughts, Grant?
Look, first of all, I think it's ballsy. I don't like it.
That's a good way of putting it.
But I think it's ballsy. So basically, Gucci is a brand that is got its customer. It is recognized for its value, and it's super confident. And therefore, it's in a transition of making a change. But in order to get your attention, it's playing with you a little bit. And therefore, just did a handwritten font and said, there we go, that's our font. And I think it has worked extremely well because it has got people's attention. You do look at it again and say, really? Is that that value, that top brand that everyone is after, that everyone aspires to? But it's just the holders of the brand that are that confident, that are that appreciative of their target audience, that want to be playful with the view to say, maybe it's this one, maybe it's not, and you're going to pay attention.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, right? It's an attention thing. Like, geez, I saw this, I did a double take. I felt like I had to like snap myself out. I'm like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? Is this right? But then I also think because we're seeing it standalone without the rest of the campaign, this is where, like I was saying before, where the issue comes in is that if you don't see the entire vision of how the application is going to come out, you can sometimes miss how valuable the rebrand is, no matter how rudimentary it seems. But if the winter line was in the same kind of guise, it was more urban, more unfinished, like having unfinished hems on the clothing and that kind of stuff, then actually this is quite reminiscent of, like, it's quite aligned with where the style might be going in the line itself. So I think it was ballsy. I think it was bold. I think they definitely have the market share or the market's attention to do something like this, and for it not to be detrimental to the brand, but to actually put some eyeballs back on the brand. And as a luxury brand, it has probably ticked along a little bit under the radar, but this definitely puts them back in the forefront.
Absolutely, very much so.
So I'm gonna let this clock, we're gonna run it down, and while it runs down, I'm gonna skip over to the other one that I showed up earlier, because I just want to show this little video. How cool is this? Boom, boom, boom. Cut off the edges. There's the old Fisher Price logo. Watch how they round it off. Isn't that great?
That is stunning.
That thought process, fantastic. And then how they actually considered what they did with the typography to kind of modernize it and make it fresh. Genius. Like, just simple,
beautiful,
smart. Yeah, I love this.
Playing with the brand. Playing with the brand.
Watch this. Watch what they do with it. Hopefully it's all come up nice and quickly. Look at that.
Stunning.
Isn't it great? Isn't it great? This is a really well presented rebrand.
Yeah.
They thought through the whole process. They have depth to what they've done. Not everyone obviously has the budget to do this, but at least have the conversation with your agency to go, okay, what is your thinking around this? And they might come back to you and show you something like this and be like, here's where we're thinking, let's be playful. So obviously this is a bit of the history around Fisher Price there. So I just think what a phenomenal little rebrand. And it's well thought through. It brings in the real kid value there, and just presented really well. Sorry, I didn't even start the time. I just started talking about it. Do we want to talk about it a little bit more, or should we just skip?
I'm just going to wrap up quickly. I think Fisher Price is known for its top quality. And I think this is a good example of a top quality execution that, once again, just from their branding, just from their brand story, just by the way they've enhanced it and launched it, I think it's very playful. And I think what they did do was that they got their clients to come with on the journey and be part of the brand story.
100%, 100%. I definitely agree with that. And I think that is a real key thing. And as we were saying in the beginning, I think that was what I was missing with the Dex introduction. I was just like, all of a sudden I'm working with Dex. I don't know who these people are. Where is my money going? Whereas this is a beautiful little story, and it really does take you along with it.
Yeah.
Where are we going to jump to next? I'll hit the timer.
Okay.
And we're going to jump over here to medium.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So look at this, like on its own, standalone, not really much of a change here, right?
Zoom in a little bit if you can.
Sure, of course. For you, anything, Grant.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Yeah, so you can see they've made it slightly slimmer on the right-hand one, but I'll show you this so you get a cusp of what else they've added, which you might say is a bit different to what a lot of other rebrands are doing. They've added in an icon rather than take away one, which we saw in a couple of the other brands, or added in a feature rather than take away one, which we've seen in the other brands. Isn't this a cool little, I don't know, I feel like this is a cool little application. Until you see it in motion, you don't really grasp it.
So let's just talk about it a little bit for a second.
Yeah.
So Medium is a publication that's got about 170 million readers that follow it, that look for information, refer to it for information. And I think that what they did was they just took an old font and they just revisited it with a more modern, up-to-date font without having to do too much change. This is once again a tweak that they've put together. But what I think what was subtle about their little add-on of the icon was the fact that it was animated. So once again, it's going to work in digital space. And it was all about revolving news. It's all about things are coming in and going out. It's about the world. It's about whatever's transpiring. And I just think that they've done phenomenal things with the view of just very subtly being an influencer, being an informer, but once again, having the opportunity to play in spaces that they've never played before, because they are going to transition into the space with the view to be relevant and yet where they're playing. So once again, I think that they did a formidable job in taking something that was not necessarily old, but was well established and brought a little bit of life back to it again. And I think that for me, I think they definitely got an 8 out of 10 out of this one.
And I think it adds a lot of value to the brand. You know, it does definitely add a lot of value. Like you look at the application as I'm going through this blog about it, and just subtleties like the side application here, application on the ads. What it does for them is give them a strong synonymous brand mark that wherever you see it. And funnily enough, this blog right here, which is another one of the brand blogs, see it's bettermarketing.pub.
Yeah,
it actually has. Look at the little icon there. That's
but this is what I was saying about iconography. That is iconography case study 101 in the sense of look how they are transforming from a paper-based publication to a digital-based publication to being an app to getting the news faster. That is 101 iconography branding. You can't get a better example.
Yeah, I love how you describe that, how it's kind of like how fast-paced the news is in and out, you know, how that transition and how global it is now as well. And I think that's, a real key thing to what they've captured here is kind of that world exposure that they get through their publication. And I love it. I love the way they've applied it and how they can continue to apply it. And again, like those other brand marks, like the square in Intel, the dot in Deloitte, these 3 dots can transition to a lot of different brand applications.
Yeah.
So it's something they can definitely play with in the future, much like GoDaddy did when we showed you the GoDaddy one. It's a good execution, and they're copying a little bit of flack because people are like, well, it's not that different. But when you don't see the vision and the broader vision, it seems that way. But just wait, you know, if they leverage what they've got here, they can create something unforgettable.
Look, I think once again, they've made their brand playful, even though they are a serious publication. Yeah. And I think that's the ultimate of what businesses forget, is that there is a time that you can become playful. There is a time that you can push boundaries without losing your core as to who and what you are. And I think that's the ultimate of a business, is that if you can't have fun with your business and it's always boring or tedious or traditional, it's going to be boring. And people out there are only interested in fun. We live in 5.4 seconds. We live with edutainment. I had to bring that word in.
Yeah, he did it.
But at the end of the day, it's about educating, entertaining, because people will flick you if they don't find value. And I think that's what makes the job harder now, is that even though it's easier and the rules are easier, it's harder to apply because there's more opportunities, avenues, and platforms.
And I think like a great example of that, of extending your brand, is Google. Like Google is phenomenal at just continually just bringing in elements of the community, bringing in the elements of the people, bringing in a touch of real, you know, bringing a touch of us into Google. I think they're phenomenal at capturing that. And even they've gone through a bit of a refresh now for all their sub brands. You'll notice that the mailbox icon has changed, the calendar icon has changed, and they're all like using that same color bar style. I don't know if I have an example of that to quickly. Oh, I do actually quickly pop it up for you. I don't know why it's side by side with a clip from Family Guy, but it's fine. It's fine. Who are we to judge? There it is. So you'll see.
There's the family.
Yeah, so you see how all the icons, so that's mail there, M, but it's also an envelope, which is fantastic. Google Drive, Google Maps. So they're taking those basic icons now and they've Googleized them, they Googleified them, which I think is fantastic. And the way they keep adapting and growing their brand is one to really take as a good example of how to adapt, be an adaptive brand. Man, covered off a lot in this show. Really long show, but a lot of people chiming in from here and there. We even got a little love heart from somebody, which we're very grateful for. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. Grant, I'll let you wrap it up and then I'll close off the show.
Well, folks, that's been one of my more favorite shows in the sense that it's a subject that I love because there isn't right answers and wrong answers. It's about timing. It's about when to do things. And I love the growth of business, hence the name Head Fire Starter. I love coming in and generating ideas with the view to implement and make it shine in the marketplace. I think bringing the show to a close, I think here is a range of examples, be it that you like them or didn't like them. But at the end of the day, people are trying things. People are pushing boundaries. People are finding new space. And a lesson I've learned is that it may be crowded here, but if you push a little bit harder, it's not always so crowded over there. So sometimes push a little bit harder.
Yeah. I think look where nobody else is looking is always the best advice that we have. Color, style there's so much you can do to really cut out your little niche in the market. And one thing that you mentioned, and hopefully people also notice this, is the little subtleties that you may have never really picked on in a logo. Hopefully we brought those out for you so you can see there's so much more depth that goes into something that even looks simple. Yeah, there's a lot of depth in there, and that's what it takes for a real brand to create a brand in itself. And those iconography and the typography and everything becomes an element of enhancing that brand and making it memorable. So look, I think this is a show we're both very passionate about. As always, everyone, thank you very much for tuning in. Please like, share, comment. We definitely want your comments on this one. We'd love to know what your thoughts are on some of the logos that we showed. And tune in on our next show, which will be in a couple of weeks, the first week of February. I think it is, of April, of March, the second week of March. Jesus Christ.
Third week of March.
The third week of March. On the 19th of March is our next show. So please tune in for that next show. Me and Grant will put together another great show full of really interesting, engaging content. So we're looking forward to talking to you all then.
And also we've got some guests coming on the show as well.
Yes, definitely. Always new guests. So, and if you'd like to be a guest, please reach out. Please reach out and say, hey, I'd like to jump on the show. And if you're a good fit and love brands, then we will pop you in the roster. But it is filling up. We are getting a lot of people reaching out now, which is very exciting. So let's keep building it. And I hope you guys love the content. Have a great Friday, everybody. And we'll see you on the next show. Thanks a lot, Grant.
Cheers.